somehow it just keeps on happening. We have had on this channel and have been following for some time businesses that either come along and say, oh no, we've lost 30-40% of our business gone. And that is because they cannot trade as easily anymore with Europe as they used to do. And we've said this time and time again and tried to explain it to Brexiteers and Brexit supporters why it was such a bad idea for Brexit and putting up these trade barriers. The EU is always going to be our closest trading partner because of trade gravity. It is a plain observable thing that anyone in trade will tell you is an absolute fact. We cannot escape it. And Labour is, of course, saying, well, we'll make Brexit work. We'll sign closer deals with the EU, which, again, is going to be good. I think that will be a good direction to go in, because once you start going into that direction, then you have to start asking the question, well, why aren't we in the single market and customs union then? If we are wanting these closer deals, and every single business out there, and I've said before, businesses should start to speak up, I think, more and more about this. I think it will eventually happen. I think the exact same situation where businesses were crying out to join at the time the European, or the beginnings of what would be the sort of the European Single Market Customs Union, is going to happen again. So, but unfortunately today we have yet another company who was claiming that Brexit would be amazing for it. It will be the best thing ever. But now it is on the verge of absolutely collapsing. So, as always, before we do go joining into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button as well down below, which you can use as well for one-off donation link. And there is the YouTube subscription you can join as well, called the Pony Club, where you get badges, emojis, and whatnot to use on the channel and during live streams. So let's go over to this then. This comes from The Independent with the title of "The Company Near Collapse, Weeks After Saying Brexit Would Be Excellent for It." A company that praised Brexit as excellent for business is now near collapse after the government rejected a £3 million advance. 4 months ago, the battery startup Britishvolt said Brexit would play a significant part in helping to build the UK's first gigafactory. Speaking to the Express back in June, the CEO, Oral Nalgison, said that Brexit for us had allowed us to be one of in the UK rather than being one of many in Europe. That has made us a company of choice for many and made it easier for investors. Given what had happened, I don't think that statement was accurate or even true by the sounds of it. But there you go. He continued to say, all in all, for Britishvolt, Brexit has been excellent. It has allowed us to permanently become the next energy champion of the UK. The government, which backed the development, had committed over £100 million for the project, and the government support of the gigafactory will help to unlock a significant amount of further support for private investors, the gov.uk reads. Alongside the private sector investment, the project is set to create at least 3,000 directly high-skilled jobs and another 5,000 indirect jobs in the wider supply chain. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson also gushed about the project at the time, saying that Britishvolt's plan to build a new gigafactory in Northumberland was the strongest statement of the skilled workforce of the North East and the UK's place at the helm of the global green industrial revolution. Backed by the government and the private sector investment, this new battery factory will boost production of electric vehicles in the UK, whilst levelling up opportunities and bringing thousands of new highly skilled jobs to the communities in our industrial heartlands. And of course, after all that bluff and bluster, what then went on to happen? Fast forward to October, and Britishvolt could go into administration after being rejected for a government advance of almost a third of the agreed funding. Ian Laverley, the Labour MP for Walsbeck, told the BBC he had spoken to Britishvolt CEO, who had said they had requested the £3 million in advance for the project to go forward. He said, "The chairman informs me that the government have replied overnight with Grant Shapps and the new business secretary, saying that they are not prepared to do so, and as a consequence, it is very likely that Britishvolt will go into administration." And Laverley added, "It is fair and squarely at the door of the government for basically not agreeing to bring monies forward which will ensure that this project will continue, and it is absolutely outrageous. What happened to levelling up?" British Volt spokesperson told the BBC that the company was, quote, aware of the market speculation and was actively working on several potential scenarios that would require stability. At this moment, we have no further comment at times. So, yeah, are we shocked that another factory is going to go into this? No, absolutely not, because you've got this massive gigafactory, and we've seen trade decrease, meaning that gigafactory, the reason it was going to be so large, I mean, it is a massive factory. By no means this is massive, but of course, if you're going to having that amount of sheer production output, you've got to send those batteries somewhere. And it's even harder to send them to Europe. And as they've said, oh, we're just, we're not, one of many factories in Europe. We're now one in the UK. If Europe's already got all these other factories that they can buy from, why are they going to buy from a gigafactory in the UK, which might even be more costly than having to buy the parts from the EU? This has always, always, always been the case. And we've said it and covered it time after time after time on this channel. Just only even a few weeks ago, if you remember, about the magnificent Brexit export champion, which again the government was championing as a massive, fantastic Brexit exporter. What happened to their exports? What was it? 200,000 pounds, I think it was, down to 2,000. And even then, they potentially, and now I think, have gone into talks to try and avoid going into bankruptcy. It's strange how all these companies are losing all this profit, all this trade for just no reason. I mean, there has to be a reason. Doesn't there? There has to be a reason. And you know what I'm going to start? I know what I'm going to try and find. I have to try and find one. I'm going to try and find like a cuddly toy elephant somewhere. And every time this comes up, I'm going to try and like get Brexit, on it somewhere. And I'm just going to start bringing in my little, cuddly toy elephant. Oh, look, here it is again. But I think that's what we're going to have to start doing, because this is it. And we've said, I don't know how many times, you cannot have a serious adult conversation about the state and the economy of the UK, as well as businesses in the UK, without not talking about Brexit and the effects that it is having on UK businesses. Not being able to talk about it, or as we've seen, like the Conservatives daren't even mention it, because as far as they're concerned, oh, well, we got Brexit done. Isn't it embarrassing? We had a Brexit opportunities department that they've slowly just, pushed into the background as much as possibly they can. It still exists, but it's no longer its own individual portfolio for a minister now, like it had with Jacob Rees-Mogg. Labour, unfortunately, don't they do want to talk about it, and I think they should. And in fact, I think the attack angle is that you start talking about how much the Conservatives have screwed up Brexit, and that their version of Brexit isn't working. Hence, now you can bring in, let's make Brexit work. And you could go, look, we're going to sort of go back to the EU and renegotiate our ties and make these closer ties. I think that's should be Labour's attack angle on it. And I think that's very much. But obviously, at the end of the day, there is the ultimate option. And not all of that. You've also got the Northern Ireland issue, which could be solved as well very easily by doing this, is rejoining the single market and customs union. That is the obvious solution to a lot of these problems. And remember, that was the Leave position. You know, as we always said, my favorite quote from Daniel Hannan, aka the brain of Brexit, the man who could answer any question about Brexit, said very clearly at the time that Leave was not talking about leaving the single market. It would be a fool who would leave the single market and customs union. So, as always, it's yet another blow to sort of British companies, British profits, and well, yeah, unfortunately another casualty of Brexit. But as always, there you go. Not surprising. And of course, we'll see you all next time.